Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. So today we will be looking at parties within Liberate. I will be your panelist today, and Richard will be hosting the webinar session for you. So just looking at the topics that we're going to cover, we'll be looking at the parties pane, the creation of the parties, and also how you can create members that can link back to those parties. The right-click options that are available when your parties are attached to a case, also showing you attaching parties to a case and detaching them. We'll also be looking at searching for parties using the quick search option, how you can rate or assess a party, and also experts in relation to parties. So as you're probably familiar with, if you watched any of our webinars before, we will have a Q&A option open. So at the bottom of your screen, just click on the chat option and send any questions through. Sorry, the Q&A option. Send any questions through. I'll do my best to answer those as we're going along. If there's any that I feel relevant for everyone else to know, then we'll answer those questions at the end of the webinar. And following the webinar, if you have any other questions at all, please feel free to contact support@linetime.co.uk, send the questions through, and then we'll send the answers to those. So without further ado, I will pass you over to Richard. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks very much, Anna. Afternoon, everyone. Hope you're well. Just let me change the screen round here, and we can get started. Just wanted to let you know as well that we are recording the webinar today. We're just in the process of arranging hosting for that, so that you'll be able to access it as and when you wish. But this one's going to be recorded. So let's just change a few things over here, and we'll get going. Just come out of the screen here, making sure everything's in the right place. Great. Right. Okay, folks, hope you can see that screen nice and clearly. Okay, so let's start looking at parties. Hopefully what you should be able to see up on your screen in front of you here is just got a Liberate case open. You'll notice that we've got the blue globe up there in the top left-hand corner. For those of you, I can see a few names of people on here who perhaps new users of the system. So yeah, just to explain where we are to set the scene, in just a regular case. And it's this right-hand side of the screen that I'm going to be concentrating on and looking at as we go through the session. So basically the parties tab that's over here, the parties screen. Let me just to show you that this can be moved around and sort of just some of the basics of it really. Might just extend it out here while we're looking at it. Along with many of the other panes within Liberate, it's pinned into place by default. If you don't wish to see it as we're going along, you can just unpin it. If you sort of click away, then the pane's out of the way. But I am going to leave it in place because that's what it's all about today. So let's just put that there just to start with. Right. So the first thing really to point out what we've got on the screen here is you'll notice I've got a few things in here. These are basically the details of parties who are involved with this case. The way that the parties tree, the parties list, the structure here on the right-hand side always appears is basically following the same sort of format. So you've always got, regardless of how many parties, you know, if it's just a few or none, you'll always have your clients listed at the top. You may notice they've got a slightly different icon, a different color from any of the other parties, but that's sort of the general structure of it. They always appear up at the top of the screen, and any of the other parties appear in alphabetical order by the name of their category in sort of a descending list underneath. So in some cases, you may find that you've got many, some maybe less. Where you can pick those up from, and where the parties themselves can be added onto a case and attached, as we call it, is all basically controlled through this All tab here. I'm just going to click on the All tab here. Got quite a long list here. Essentially, just to explain what we've got here is this is a list of all of the parties who details of who are held on the system. So these could be private individuals or commercial organizations. We have details of them, what we call the party record for each of them are held within the system. They're then organized and categorized, as we call it, into these groups, into these categories, which is basically an alphabetical list running in this example from A for accountants all the way down here to W for witnesses. So that's the idea of it. Some of the categories here are sort of the default ones, the ones that come as part of the standard build off the shelf, if you like, with Liberate. Within the admin facility, your system designers can create and amend the categories. And within those categories, there's a few other settings that they can control as well, as we're, and I'll address some of those as we're going through, if that's all right. So first thing I just wanted to have a look at is about sort of creating parties. You know, we've got them in here. How do we? We've got the categories within here. So sort of how do we create them? A couple of things just to mention. It's the ability to do quite a few things within this area. I should mention on a broad point is controlled by user access. Sort of typical thing that you find across a lot of Liberate screens. You can set and control access to some of these options for your users. So I'm not suggesting that everyone should or can be able to do this. That's kind of your decision. But in terms of creating a new client for the very first time, sorry, not client, creating a new party that I'm going to involve with this client for the first time, suggest probably the first thing to do is to do a bit of a search to check that they don't already exist. We don't want duplicate records within the system. So I'm just going to just to show you an idea of how this could work. If I was looking for the name of an organization that I'm going to create, I just type their name in up at the top here. If I hit the enter key on my keyboard, what will happen is if there is a match for them, if they're found within a category, that category will expand and display them. I can see in this case that that it hasn't done that. So what I can do is I can go ahead and create them just to show you what it would look like if it had found one. If I'm just the name of a firm here I know that's been created called Charter. If I click that, it'll basically do a like a wildcard search, a match where it finds anything that's got part of that word or a part of it within its description. So that's why it's bringing back chartered surveyors here, RSC chartered surveyors. And scrolling further down my list, I can see there's also a firm of solicitors within that category called Charter and Jones. So that's sort of the idea of being able to do that search, just to first of all see if you've got a record for them already. Right, let me just do that here. I'm just going to search for the name of Brandley and Collins is the name of a firm that I'm going to create. They're going to be solicitors perhaps on the other side. Let's create a record for them just to show you. So having searched, I've not been able to find them. What I'm going to do, well, I've not been able to find them, they don't exist. What I'm going to do is select the category that I want them to be a part of. So they're going to be a firm of solicitors. I'm going to select this one here, solicitors, do a right click, and you'll see I've got an option here for new party. If I give that a click, just let the screen refresh for a moment, and I'm in here now into an untitled party record, basically a blank party record. A couple of things I'm just going to fill in some details on here for them. Let me just show you the radio buttons, the important radio buttons at the top of the screen, which basically control whether or not this is a private or a commercial organization. If you notice, as I just click on those, that some of the fields change, not hugely, but obviously with a commercial organization, things like gender, date of birth, nationality wouldn't apply here. So let me just pop that into there. So the company name, I'm just going to pop their details in here. And as I tab through, just going to ask me to do a conflict check on there. I'll just leave that alone just for the moment, just for today's purposes as I'm going through. Just going to put the details in here. I could put in the usual sort of thing that I might want to record, phone numbers, email addresses. So you get the idea of sort of populating the screen. I can put in that we've got a fax number for them, those sort of things, email addresses. Now the point and the usefulness of recording email addresses here, along with phone numbers and the mailing address. The benefit of that is that we'll see that in a moment, that all links through, that we can see those details in a moment. If I can just learn how to spell training, I'll just pop that in there. We could put that in if we had the web address. We could put that in, any contact notes, any other details. If I use the postcode facility on here, I can look up their details. I think I had one from earlier today. Just use it as an example. If that one's going to work correctly. Just pop that in. So you can just see the details that I'm just going to put into there. Once we've got, once I've got everything within there that I need to do, all I really need to do at this point is really just to save the record. And I'll just save this, give it a moment while it does that. Just let it refresh the screen there. You'll notice that it's now saved it. We've got the name up at the top of the screen, and that we've got the new party record created. Yeah, that's all we really need to do at that point to be able to add them. What I can do at this point now is really just save the record, and if I come out of that now, just come out of that, and that takes me back into the screen. So once I'm back within the parties pane, so I'll just click away there. The screen's just taking a moment just to refresh. If I click away now, within the all pane, this is where I can now find the party, that commercial organisation that I've just created. If I scroll down the list, I can now see, if I just take out the word Brandley here as well, so we can see everything that lives in that category. Scroll all the way down to the solicitors. These are all the various ones that are created, that exist within the all tab, and the one that I've just created this moment, Brandley and Collins. If I want to attach that to the case, so that's actually going to be attached to our client's case. It's just a simple matter of just selecting them to highlight them, and then doing a right click and attach to case. Also, just to mention while I'm here, if I was to do a right click on properties, that would take me into that screen that we saw just a couple of moments ago, where we hold the details for that party. So if I just now attach them to the case, just to point out, a couple of things have happened on the screen. I'll scroll down just to show you the first one of them. The first one is that their symbol has changed slightly. You'll notice that all the others are sort of orange-brown. This one's now blue, indicating that that party's been attached to the case. Of course, if I go to the Attach to Case tab, this is where I would expect to see them, and there they are, that we've now got that record of them is now attached to their party record is now attached to this particular case. Now, one of the benefits of doing this, of having the parties attached to the case, is it gives you access to be able to contact them, also to record information about their involvement with this case within a section that's called Case Info. So just to show you how that works, again, it's just a simple right click. If I right click my mouse here over their record, I get a number of options. Just to point out the very top one, the detaching of the case, to detach them from the case is really simple. It's just a matter of clicking there. It's probably worth just mentioning that doesn't actually sort of delete their record from the system. It's not as if they've gone. It's just sort of breaking, if you like, detaching that connection with this case. Of course, you can still find them within the All tab. Also, just to mention on here, this is where you can do the access the links to be able to contact them. So we've got the email party. Simply just by hovering over there, that will give me access to any email addresses that have been recorded against that party. Again, that's all done on that screen that we saw a couple of moments ago, on the party record screen. So if they do have multiple email addresses, you would be presented with multiple here. Just to mention as well, phone and SMS. There are options to integrate through Liberate with dialing and SMS functionality. So it's the same sort of concept. If numbers are held there and you have that functionality, then we can do that directly. Send letter is a really useful function. This will generate one of the what we'll call the standard precedents. So typically like a blank letter to party, kind of a top and tail letter, where it will merge through at the top of the letter the contact details, any reference details for that party, leaving the main part of the letter blank, ready for you to populate. And that can be done directly from here. So you don't have to switch. If you're familiar with it, you don't have to switch into the precedence area to generate the letter and then save it back here, that sort of thing. It can be done directly. The other area here I want to show you is, which is a really useful one, which is the case info tab. If I just give this a click, it'll open up a new window. The idea of this, the case info, is basically this is where you can record information about this party's involvement with this particular case. That party may be involved with lots of your cases, but it's their involvement with this particular one. We can add and edit information related to that. So at the top of the screen, the fields are sort of grayed out, yellowed out, if you like. Can't amend those up here, as those are part of this case. But the other fields further down here, you can. So the reference field here, for example, this is useful for perhaps if there's a reference for that party on the other side. Let's say, for example, I can put in details there. I'll show you how that comes through and appears in a moment. It's useful to be able to see. Then we've got the options to, if there are multiple email addresses, or if there are multiple mailing addresses and emailing addresses, you can select perhaps for this case that correspondence is going to be sent to a certain address or perhaps to a certain email address. So that can be set there. We can also indicate they want to use their informal salutation. If they're an expert for the claimant or defendant, if we can indicate that as well. Salutation, if we wish to change that, the letter title, the letter heading. So this would be sort of the relying, those sort of things we could be entered into there. And there's also a general notes field as well. I'll just put something as just a bit of an example in here, just so you can see something there, and just how that appears on the screen. So yeah, the case info tab, quite a useful function to be able to use. Probably just worth pointing out, I might mention this, but with the this is particular to this case. So any information on here that's saved isn't stored and transferred across to any other cases that party is involved with. Basically, the case info tab is unique to each case. So I'll just leave that as it is. Let's just say OK to that. Just to show you may have noticed already what's happened behind. In the parties pane, the fields expanded here out to show us the reference. Just leave my mouse there for a moment. You'll notice that the tooltip that appears underneath it as well is displayed there. To be able to change it, to be able to change any of the details for there, it's just a simple matter of just clicking back onto the case info, and that will, I beg your pardon, that will allow you then to basically make any of those changes on there. Nothing else much to mention, particularly regarding that case info tab, if that's of help. Just want to show you something else that we can do within that record here for the solicitors. So there's a concept within, or a use within Liberate, whereby within that party record we can then also create a record for members, so members of staff, individual employees, perhaps of an organisation. We can create a record, a party record for that for themselves, but also link it, an idea, as it were, with the organisation, the firm that they work for, and that's an area of the system that's known as members. To be able to do that, what I'm going to do is just go into the party record itself. So I can do that directly from here. I'm going to select this firm of solicitors. Just a right click down to the properties. It'll open up the screen we saw a moment ago with the phone numbers, email addresses, and those sort of things. The place with which we actually create the member is here. So there's a tab at the top of the screen that just says members. If I give that a click, it's just going to open up a screen for me. Just to explain, what I've got on the left hand side is a blank area. There's not a great deal of any need to do there. But this area on the right is where it's going to display in a moment the details of the members who, i.e., the sort of the individuals who work for that organisation. There's nobody there at the moment, of course, because I've only just created it. But to add them, all I need to do is to give this button a click, add. It'll give me an option of whether or not I wish to add an existing or a new party. So i.e. someone who already exists or someone who's going to create them fresh. So yeah, I'm going to do that. We'll add someone new. If I just give that button a click. The next couple of tick boxes here, what's this about? This is basically giving me a bit of information. When it creates this member, are they going to have the same address? Are they going to fit into the same category, i.e. the solicitors category? Are they going to share the same company info? So most of the time you are going to want to do that. So that's why those are ticked for you. But of course you can amend that as you're going forward. Nothing more to do there. If I just click next, it's going to open up a new party record. So this is the one for the individual themselves. If you're looking at the top of the screen here, this has got it set as private. So I'm just going to pop some details in here. It's blank at the top, of course, because I've not put anything in. But if you look down at the bottom of the screen, it's pulled through the details for that organisation, for their mailing address. So let me just click on I'll just use the 3-dot picker here, the ellipsis symbol. Let's just add someone. Let's pop her details in there. Just leave that alone for the moment. So if you just notice here that it's just pulled through the details, and that's how it's going to save the record for this person, that they are a member of that organization. Again, usual sort of things I can do in here. I can put in a perhaps direct dial number for this person, or I can put in a business email address for them as well. All of those things mean that we can, of course, we can contact them directly. Just see how my typing's going here. If I just, we could put as many details in as we need. Perhaps if we had the notes or something to do there. These fields here, just to point out, aren't mandatory. If we did have something information and it was appropriate to all that, then we could just do that. All we need to do at this point then is I'm just going to save the record for that person, for Alison here, who's the member of the organisation. With that done now, don't need to do anything else. If you just notice up at the top of the screen that it's just indicating now that that it's saved the record, and that's how it's going to save it into the system. So I could search for by her name, but also usefully I've got the name of the firm as part of the description as well. Okay, so if I just close out of here now, what it'll do is it'll take us back to where we were when we were just adding her as a member. And I just get this confirmation message saying basically it's about to add her as a member of that firm, and that's great. That's what I want to happen. So if I just click finish, I can just see that she's listed there. If I ever needed to change the details for this person while I'm in here, I can just click on the button here, and that lets you change the properties for her. Okay, not much more that I need to do on that screen. I'm just going to just close out of this, and that's going to then take us back into the case, because that's where we started it all off from. So I'm just going to click close there. That takes us back into the parties pane for this particular case. Now I might just need to refresh this screen because I've just this moment created that person. So if I give it a moment, it'll just update that. I think it's just doing that. It's just hovering for a moment. Right. So something I just want to mention at this point then is that the creation of that person, of Alison Wilson, who's the individual employee, I've created her, but she's not yet attached to the case. If I go into the All tab, just and then scroll down the list to where I can find my firm, if you can then see I've got a plus symbol here. So that's sort of indicating I can tell that there's a member within that organization. I click to expand it. I can see that she's there. So what I just now need to do is just to attach her to that particular case. So if I give that a click, Her symbol, just to point that out, has changed slightly into the blue one. If I now go back to the attach to case tab, you can see here the name of the firm. And if I click to expand, we can see that she's there as well. So that's sort of the idea of being able to add a member, basically doing that from the record, the party record of the firm, of the commercial organisation. You can do it like I've done here on the attach to case tab or on the all tab. The outcome is the same. Sort of the last step, the key thing to do at the end, and it's an easy thing to overlook, is to do that final right click and attach to case. And then they're attached to the case. Okay, a couple of other things to mention about use of the screen here. Within the screen here, it's possible to add and attach certain parties onto any of the data items that are on screen. So I've got one set here by way of example, that we've just got one a data item here on this screen for land registry. Once you've got the any party attached in this example for the land registry, it's possible to then attach them to this case and attach them to this screen. Then thinking about precedents that you may have created that involve that, include that data item, that it's then going to pull through the details for that party. It's simple enough to do once you've got the party on your screen. There's a few ways of doing it. You can just actually just drag across the name of the party over that particular field, and then just release, and that they are then populated into that field. Just to point out sort of the green symbol that appears next to it. This gives you similar options to what we saw a moment ago, pretty much the same thing actually, with the right click to email, SMS, send letter, and the case info that we saw as well. So it's quite a useful thing to have for your users once you've got them set up on the screen, that they're on there, and that you can access just by a simple right click those details. To remove them, to take them, perhaps that's not the correct one and you no longer want them to be on there. With that, what you can do is the drop down list that appears next to them at the very, very top of the list. You can scroll up to the top and select non-selected, and that removes them. Also, just to point out, what you can do as well within the drop down list here is that if any parties are sort of a bit of a background setting that can be configured on here, this field, this data item on screen, can be set and configured only to accept parties that match a certain category. So that's a good way of sort of controlling, I guess, information quality on screen that you couldn't, for example, in a land registry field, you couldn't have accidentally recorded on there the name of an estate agent. That wouldn't make sense. So that field can be created to just hold that, and that's what I'm seeing in that list there. So you've got a few ways into it. You can scroll through the list and select, or you can do what I just did a moment ago, just drag across and drop them on the screen. So hope that makes sense in terms of being able to add sort of, I guess really sort of the key point really is to go through the process of just checking to see that they already exist. Another thing just to mention on here for the adding of parties and creating of them is there's also this option for the attach party wizard. If I just show you what this does as well, if I give that a click, this gives you an option on that first click there. Basically, it's a mini sort of search screen on here, so I can search for the name of an organisation, the name of a party, an individual, to basically pull their details through. Something just to mention on here, a bit of a key tip, is the category here defaults to the category that you were last accessing and then last dealing with. So I was last dealing with land registries. So if I was to do a search now, it's going to search within that category, which might mean I might not quite get exactly what I wanted to bring back. But what I can do on here is just clear that off. So I know I've got a certain firm within here that's got Brown within their job title. If I can type that in correctly, I'll just pop that in. You can pop as much detail in as you have of the individual, their job title, company, perhaps you've got part of the address, maybe the postcode, not the full address. And if you leave the wildcard search on, that should be on there by default. And I click search, then I should get a list of results down at the bottom of the screen. Once I've got those details here, I can select one of them, and a right click and load party will bring that party record up. From there, we can then attach them to the case. So if we just do that, sorry, I'll just go to that screen that appeared there. Within the party record as well, just to mention within here, this is where it holds the details of the categories. So within the categories tab, this is the same alphabetical list of all of the categories to categorize the parties. It's probably worth mentioning that parties can fall into several categories, if that sort of makes sense. They don't just have to sort of fall within one group. If it makes sense for them to be recorded as perhaps experts, but also that they're surgeons, or that they may be whatever it can be, whatever makes sense in your context. You can have multiple categories. By default, I'll see that that some of these are already ticked and indicated, but you can just add more onto there. So I won't do anything more with that just at the moment. I'm just going to come out of that screen, and yeah, I won't apply any of those. Okay, right. Just looking at the time. I want to show you just now regarding areas I've been able to search for parties. So we've been able to do while we're within a case here, been able to use the filter here, and also the all tab to find details of parties. What it's also possible to do is at command level within the search area. There's a few options we have to be able to search for parties, and then to add them to our cases. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to switch into command level. Those of you who know about the F8 keyboard shortcut, I'll just press that, or you can click down at the bottom of the screen. I'm just going to go into the quick search area. So typically, perhaps when you come into the quick search area, you'll be familiar with the first tab, where you get the number of different criteria, so you can search for your cases, your matters, or your clients. But also to point out, there are two other tabs as well that we'll have a look at for the party, and also for party categories. So let's just have a look at those. So within the parties tab, if I give that a click, we get a similar screen to the one we saw a moment ago for the attached party wizard. What I can do within here, again, is just look for or search for, perhaps I just have part of their name. So I've got the name of a firm here. I just put in part of their name. I'll leave the category as blank, because I can narrow it down and say this is the one I wish to put them into. But if I click search here, then it'll just give me a list of results. These are the parties where it's brought back that as being part of the description. You'll notice, because I've got wildcard on as the broad search, it's either going to bring me back something where the party name matches that word, or perhaps it may be part of their address, or it may be part of their company description. So that's brought through. A useful function just to point out while we're in this screen here is also an area at the bottom here, in which, now that you found that party, the screen here can show you any cases that party is attached to. Just to do that, if I just select to highlight them here, I'll pick on, say, the Wrigley's here, for example, and click on refresh. Then at the bottom of the screen, it gives me options here. It gives me a list here of any of the cases that they're attached to. And the usual sort of thing that you get with Liberate as well is that I can then access this to be able to, if I then wanted to go into that particular case, to get me back onto the very first tab where I can do that. All I need to do is just do a double click. If I just do that on this particular one here, for example, then it's taken me back into the first tab here, and I've got that case now loaded up. And from there, you've got the usual right click options, or the buttons on the toolbar here to load through to them. So yeah, one of the useful areas of being able to have the party. So the way it works, you just select the party, and click refresh down here, the screen then refreshes to show you any cases that that party is attached to. If they're not attached to any, like this one, for example, is it the third one down, I believe? Yeah, you're basically just going to get a blank list at the bottom of the screen. But if they are attached to any, find the one you want, double click, and that'll take you back to the first tab. It's quite useful to be able to do that within the party tab. So just moving on to the party categories, slightly different search here, really. What we can do is we can search for any parties across across various categories. So the first thing to do really on here is to select a category. So I've been using solicitors so far, so I'll stay with that. If I give that one a click and then click the search button up at the top of the screen, basically then going to bring me back a list of any party that matches that category that's been tagged as being part of that category, if that makes sense. So then what we've got within that, then if I pick on perhaps the first one at the top of the list, if I expand out this option there, I'll then see any of the parties that person, any cases I should say that party that is connected with. And again, I get right click options here. So to go through to that party record, the client, or to open up the case, you can go directly through there. So useful bit to be able to do that. What else can we do on here as well? Perhaps if I just clear off these search results here, what we can also do is just to point out this pane down at the bottom as well, which is quite useful. We've got this field here for and if I just type in, say, perhaps part of the name that I'm aware of and do a search, then it'll bring me back anything. We've seen this, a bit of a variation on this earlier, where you can bring back details of any of those parties that they're attached to. And again, the right click options as well on here. So that's what we can do there. Just one last thing just to show you out about in this area. There is a setting that can be configured. It's an admin setting, so something that's set in the background for an option against a party record for additional info to be held. This is basically a drop-down list that can be defined by yourselves. We have a few sort of examples here, just three of just things. So if we were looking for a party, we've given them an additional bit of information that indicates perhaps an area of work or a speciality that they hold. We can indicate that in that additional info on their own record. And then if we're searching for any parties who have that, we might not know what category they fall under, we might not know their name, but we may be looking for this as their description. If I just highlight that and click search, then it will bring you back a list of any of the parties that match that information, where that additional info is held against their record. I'll show you in a little moment where that actually gets added, that what's known as the additional information. So what else to mention on there? Not too much really. So I think, yeah, just to recap, really sort of the benefit of this is that you can do a broader search looking for all parties within a category rather than just sort of putting in the name of one individual one. Just the last little part I just want to show you a bit about is about the record itself. So for the individual party, so particularly that thing about the additional info, and there's also an opportunity, a facility where we can rate them or assess them. Essentially, if it's another area of sort of categorization of information that we can hold against a party. So I'm just going to close out of this screen, as I don't need this one anymore. And I think I'm just going to pop back into my case. Let's have a look at how this, an example of where this appears. So I've got an example within the all tab, within the category of surgeon or surgeons. I just collapse these menus a little bit so I can just see where we're going to. So to surgeon here, for example, if you see that one, if I expand that one out, I've got 3 within here. This one just to indicate sort of stands out a little bit different. If you see the name of the person there, David, good enough, doctor, that what we can do here is basically give them a sort of a rating and assessment, and that's what that number 10 is in brackets that appears after their name. Just to show you how that works, let's just select him and we'll go into the properties for him. That's just going to open up. If I go into the categories tab here, this is where the information's held. So if I click on categories, this is showing the category that this party falls into. So if I scroll down the list, I'll find his party. It could be multiple parties, but this is the party. Where are we now? Just find the right one. There we are for surgeon. So this category, and again, this is sort of something that needs to be configured in the background. The category of surgeon can have this this additional indicator put in on a tick adding to it, saying that it's done for what's known as party assessment. So we can give a score. Once get to his category, I do a right click there, and I get this option for party assessment. If I give that a click, it's going to open up this little screen. So basically, this is a bit of a record for this person, for this surgeon, for this doctor. What we've got on here on the first screen and then on the audit tab is basically sort of a score, like a ranking, if you like. They can be ranked from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. It's just a matter of selecting the number. So we've got him at number 10 there. I might just leave him as is. If you see the tick box there for mark as preferred, that's why we saw a little green tick next to his name earlier. So if you've got a whole list of parties, we can say, actually, of those, these are the preferred ones that we'd wish to deal with. That's what's there. Also, just to mention the assessment audit here. So the idea of this is perhaps the scores are going to change over time. Perhaps we regularly review on a rolling basis their performance, and we record against that. The idea is on here is from the very point of creation. So for this person, it's going back a few years. The data which they've created, their rating, are they preferred? Have we unticked them as now being preferred? And also you get a sort of a notes field within here as well. That's all driven from that first tab. It literally also tells you as well the user, the Liberate user who recorded that. So perhaps if I change his score today, I might just say this is going to be a update for 2021 April, now rated at 9. That might be a little bit harsh, but yeah, that's the idea, that we can record that. I'll say okay to that. It'll save it. Just to show you, if I pop back into it on the assessment audit, so I think I might just have to save his record there just to get it to pull through. Pop back onto the assessment audit. You can see there that it's now updated and with the user details next to it. So that's where we can see that we've got the assessment, sort of the score, or to say that we're going to mark him as being a preferred provider. The only thing just to mention on here as well, on this person's record, I'm just going to say okay to this screen here, just to close that one down. Just to point out on the details tab here, on the details tab, it seems to have not pulled through onto here for some reason. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. Not entirely why that's not appeared. But what I would have expected to see appear across the top of the screen here is a field, the additional info, the drop-down list of the 3 options, and it's on that screen that we can select that and define that the additional info is that it matches this description. I think on the screen we saw earlier, it was something like perhaps this person works with children, whatever it happens to be, accepts children's patients. That's what that additional info can be. So yeah, there should be a field that just appears there. Right, just looking at the time, I don't think there's too much more to show you. Just a couple of other things. If I just close out of here, again, while we're in this realm of people that parties who may wish to deal with or assess or record extra information, there is the idea within the system also of experts. You may notice the tick box at the very top of the screen here. Now, just to mention, the way that this works is it's not like we saw a moment ago by an individual. It's a category in itself. So essentially, when the category is being created in the background, that can be ticked to indicate that the whole category contains experts. And then anyone who is then categorized, you know, the ticks put next to them to put them into that group. That's where they appear. So it's really easy to be able to see it. All we need to do is just to click experts only, click refresh, and then just in this case, it's our surgeon category, which is the one which has been indicated to hold experts. So it's quite useful, you know, rather than if you've got many parties, many categories, rather than having to scroll through to get to a certain place, a certain group, a certain category, we can just click that, and we're just bringing back the parties that have been marked as expert. Okay, so I think that pretty much finishes it. There's just one small thing I just want to show you in the last couple of seconds, if that's all right. So just to pop me back into command level, just to finish that off, because I've been concentrating so far being within a case where we've been creating the parties. It's also probably worth just mentioning that you can create them here at command level as well. Really simple to do. All we need to do is to click the new party button up at the top of the screen. Party record screen that appears is the same as we've been seeing. The only key point here is that we're not attaching it directly to a case here. We're just creating parties. They're all going to appear in the all tab and be available. So yeah, that's sort of the key distinction here. So perhaps you want to create parties. You don't want to be in a particular case when you're doing it. You don't have to do that. You can do it here at command level. Yeah, and I think just looking at the time and looking at the list of things to cover today, folks, I think that pretty much covers it. So Anna, have we got any questions we want to have a look at?
There's nothing that's come in waiting to be answered.
Okay.
So we'll leave it open for a little bit just to see if anyone's furiously typing away to get their question in.
Yeah, please do. Just wanted to mention as well, folks, while you're perhaps doing that we have got other webinars coming up. Like I said, we are starting to record these, and they're soon going to be publicly available to you. But if you don't know, the details are held on our website. If you go to the news, the events area within there, that you can book onto any future webinars. They're still going to be free as well.
Looks like we've got a few people dropping off.
Okay, yeah, just to mention, that's essentially all the content we're going to cover. So if please feel free to log out. Thanks a lot for your time, and we have a good afternoon and good weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Richard.
Thanks for your time, everyone. Speak to you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.